Bitcoin's pumping. What does this mean for XRP and XCN holders? This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil, Neal. Keeping technical analysis short and sweet as always. And for those of you who are freaking out because Bitcoin is pumping, first and foremost, like, don't be ridiculous. Even if it's your first time in the market, you've seen this thing just dump time after time. And with the war and everything that's going on, apparently the US is going to start bombing bridges and power grids here in 2 days or so. That can be very detrimental to the cryptocurrency market. We've already been manipulated this past entire year, whether it's the government shutdown, Jane Street, Jerome Powell, whatever it may be. It's really not looking good for the basis point cut in the stock market. Um, because of everything that's going on. They say the jobs and all this different stuff. But Bitcoin, even though it is pumping, yes, it did close above its previous high right around here. But we are still underneath that black upward trend line, underneath the wedge. But if this does decide to pull up and get through the CM guppy, maybe the bombing of bridges and stuff like that is beneficial to the market and not detrimental. Keeping in mind on this date, April 29th is where the Clarity Act needs to be approved. This thing could shoot way down, shoot way back up, temporarily liquidity sweep. There's a number of things that can happen from this point in time until April 29th. But this week is actually very important. It's got a lot of news coming out, as well as next week. All of April is going to be a pretty hectic week for crypto after this long consolidated period. So if Bitcoin does push up within this wedge and then hold this black trend line as support, you only really have this area before it has its resistance. Not only is the CM guppy trying to push it down, but the black trend line is its true resistance, as well as the 200 EMA. So there's 3 points of resistance on its way up. On its way down, the only support we really have is 64,000. That's about it. There is no volume on this chart, but if this does pull up within the wedge, it's got a very tight range in this area for it to cross over that black downward trend line. You could see it consolidate over here, maybe even drop and test this downward trend line as support before April 29th. Essentially, we're waiting for Clarity Act to get passed, and that clarity will allow institutional investors to be flowing a bunch of money into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. So the good news, the bad news, it's going to be a hectic 2 weeks for the market. After this long bleeding out period, a lot of you are panicking and wondering if you should sell everything or buy more. First off, I'm not going to tell you to buy anything when we don't have validation. Unlike Caesar, I'm not just going to say, oh, we got a 1 day pump, put all your money into this coin, and the next day it's down 30%. That would be ridiculous. We are here to make educated guesses and perfect entries. So for those of you who are members, shout out to you guys. If you're not a member, become a member. 50% goes to save animals' lives, but you also get high ROI coins. Amelia, Junior Carlos, Woozall, everybody who watches the member videos, write in the comments below, show that it is beneficial, and you guys are definitely getting your money's worth and probably have already made your money back for being a member. But XRP, we've seen it work in this downward channel. It broke this upward trend line, this purple one, and it pushed downwards as expected because that was broken. Everybody's seeing this middle dotted centerfold as a sense of support because we've had it as resistance back here from February until the beginning of March. We've had it as some resistance or support back in this area of November to December of 2025. And currently, the CM guppy is pretty thinned out. 200 EMA is nice and close, but it is also still our resistance with that black downward trend line. We are, however, crossing over the yellow in the RSI and trying to make this as healthy as we can, get a little bit more consolidation. But again, I want you to keep in mind, nothing is stopping this from having a liquidity sweep. We saw it back here on October 10th, which is actually the exact month that Japan was testing the XRP network. And I imagine they sold a bunch of their crypto or moved it in one way or another to see if the infrastructure could hold it, and it clearly could, but we still had the decrease in price and further continuation. But we are working within the channel. It looks very healthy. It's working within the channel. These two yellow vertical bars are essentially the important dates. FADA. The important dates within the market for XRP. On April 13th is when the Clarity Act is coming back to the board, I guess, and the banks are pretty much saying this is our proposal. We know Coinbase has denied it twice in the past, and it could happen again because Coinbase wants to earn high APY, banks want to earn high APY. Nobody wants another person to earn more APY than them. And you guys being retail, you guys are just kind of along for the ride to say, you know what, let's pass the Clarity Act. I'm okay with 2% APY when currently you're getting around 20. So me personally, I don't care if this keeps dragging out. Ideally, we would like to see a good proposition for the Clarity Act and interest being earned on money that we've put all of our hard work into this cryptocurrency, believing in it, and knowing that $1.34 for a global economic transfer utility coin is completely undervalued. Let's move out. Let's go to the weekly. And yes, we are going to be talking about XCN for the people who are here just for XCN. In the weekly, it's just not looking the best. We are underneath the CM Guppy, but it is pretty far out, meaning each wave is a little bit easier to push into until we start getting into these bottom layers of this wave, or I guess the top layers. There's a lot of resistance on the way up. The volume's not looking the best, but the main thing, we are completely oversold in the RSI. But like I said, the liquidity sweep's still possible to get this to test off that yellow line, immediately push into the oversold, and anybody who has a sell stop below $1 is going to get tapped out, and the people who have buy stops below $1 are going to get snagged, and it's going to push this right back up into this channel and break this eventually. It's already tested it many times on the way down. It's very weak, and we're essentially waiting on the Clarity Act for this thing to come to fruition. So keep stacking your bag of XCN and XRP. You should have more XRP than XCN, not in the terms of coins, but in the terms of money, in my opinion. You can always stake it on Nexo. There's a reference link for Nexo in the description below. Up to 9.5% APY before this Clarity Act is approved or denied. So keep that in mind. Let's actually move into XCN. And I wanted to show you the previous chart that I had brought up with Coinbase. So Coinbase's chart in XCN looks different than crypto. Let's actually take a quick look at crypto's chart. We have the black upward trend line very, very thinned out. And clearly, just putting that trend line in there from this support, here's a little bit of support, we see, okay, it is trying to get a little bit of support here. Yesterday's candle doesn't look the best because we pushed up to that 0.0048, immediate wick off, but the next day, it is bought right back up. So the people who are selling up here are like, probably should have just held on to it. But maybe they're rebuying this, trying to thin out the CM Guppy. The orange line is essentially where the CM Guppy pressure is. So there's a little bit of a range up to that 0.005, but we essentially want to get over this 0.0048 and hold this as stability and start working our way towards that downward trend line. Now, let's look at it in Coinbase's, and I'm going to try and end this video here soon because it's been in about 10 minutes, and you guys only watch for 3 minutes, except some of you. XCN Gaussian fan. We have the top point, more or less. You could draw it from this top wick off, but we're going to go from this point, and we draw the downward trend line. Essentially, this blue line is our downward trend line that was broken, giving us this range of the blue area. We see we tested the CM Guppy here, pushed up over the CM Guppy, tried making it into the 3-1, this purple area, right? We see 3-1, this is 2-1, and it got rejected off of that price point. So we put in the fib from the bottom to the top, and we see that Oops. We see that it pulled all the way back to almost a full 1 retracement. So what could we do now? We could reverse the fib. We could take it from the top to the bottom. Now we're here. CM Guppy is some pressure. We got that first red line at 0.005, which is still pressure as well. It would have to push over this blue downward trend line, over the CM Guppy, over this red resistance being the Fibonacci retracement. And if it can get over all that, we want to see a nice slow consolidation over that. The RSI pushing over the yellow and essentially breaking this blue line. When that blue line is broken, since we've tapped it about 3 or 4 times now, if it is broken, we have roughly this range to be dealing with. And that is still within the red downward trend line. So it's not a huge major pump. You guys should be stacking your XCN within this price point because that's another 38%. It's not much. Ideally, if you haven't entered into XCN, you're looking at this less than a penny price point to be entering. But as of right now, we are testing this resistance on this blue downward trend line. So that's a little bit different perspective on it. A little bit of volume will go a long way, but same thing with XRP. The 13th of April, when they bring the clarity